Hello, and thanks for tuning in for another session of Backporch Catechetics with Dr. Humphreys. This short video is focused on the human virtues. The section of the Catechism begins at 1804. There are human virtues that we talk about and divine virtues that we talk about, two simple categories. The basic idea is the human virtues are kinds of things that are rooted in our basic created abilities. We're able to do these things, we're able to teach them to each other, to learn them for ourselves. A lot of the effort is on us when we think of the human virtues as a kind of category, especially in a category in opposition to the divine virtues or the theological virtues. Those theological virtues, faith, hope, and love, obviously rely a lot on us. I mean, it's always a dual effort kind of thing that we share with God. But we especially see that they begin with a special gift from God. Faith, hope, and love, these require special deposits of grace or special gifts of grace for us to then be able to use. All right, so with the human virtues, we're talking about things which might seem more natural to us, which anyone ought to be able to do, which are sort of part of what it just means to be human. That means then that these virtues are rooted most deeply in our human faculties, our regular abilities like to think, our mind, and to choose, our will or our heart. The virtues then become a kind of stable disposition, we say, a standard default action to use our mind and our heart, our will, for the good. And inasmuch as they lead to us doing things well, they lead to us finding the genuine good, these human virtues lead to happiness. In some, when we talk about virtues, and particularly human virtues, we're talking about something that we acquire through effort, a little bit of struggle, and that leads us to freedom and happiness. As we say in the gym, no pain, no gain. Among the human virtues, there are four that we really see get a lot of attention, not just in theology, but throughout history and philosophy. We call them the cardinal virtues. Cardinal from a Latin term meaning a hinge or a pivot point. These are the four virtues on which it seems all human virtues hinge or depend. Those virtues are prudence, justice, fortitude, and temperance. Those can be fancy words for things that we already know. Prudence is a virtue that, we say, in the words of the Catechism, disposes practical reason to discern the true good. Prudence is that virtue of knowing what the right thing to do is right now. And in that sense, prudence is the virtue that most directly guides our conscience. Formation in prudence looks a lot like learning the right thing to do. If we're working out physically, we try to get in patterns where take taekwondo, learn these three moves together, right? A kick, a punch, a kick, or what to do when you see someone lean this way, you lean that way. If we think about sports teams, pitching in baseball or running, we're talking about muscle memory. And prudence would be that virtue that gives us muscle memory for choosing the right thing, or conscience memory to choose the good. In that sense, prudence is very much a kind of wisdom, a knowing that leads to the right action. Justice is a virtue which gives to God what's due to God, gives to the neighbor what's due to the neighbor, and gives to myself what's due to me. I don't think justice is only about what I owe to someone else, but it's also about what I owe to myself and to God and to my neighbor. All three considered together is what's going to lead us to justice. This is a virtue which gets a lot of discussion, and of course we like to think about it in legal terms sometimes. We like to think about it in ancient philosophical categories as well as in scriptural categories. Of any of the cardinal virtues, I think this is one where you'll see a divergence of definitions. The Catechism reminds us that justice really involves appropriate conduct towards God and to our neighbor, and I'm saying that includes ourselves. Or if we think of the rule to love God, love neighbor as you love yourself, I think we get to the heart of justice. Formation in justice involves considering the other. And in that sense, justice really is about being out there in society, and not just society with other humans, but of course you're thinking as a Catholic in society with the angels, in society with God. Fortitude is the easiest for a lot of people to see as a human virtue because it really is just that raw effort, that pushing forth, that sticking with it, the grit, the commitment, the pushing on. The Marines are often fond of saying things like, you commit to a hill at the bottom. You don't make a decision in the middle when things get tough. You have a plan already when you're sitting in the air conditioning. This is what I'm doing. And fortitude is that sticking with that plan, that resolve to fight evil, to resist temptations, to avoid bad, and to choose good. Stick with it, do it. That means getting over our fear. That means getting over our temptations. Sometimes it means relying on other people. Fortitude is that strength virtue. And formation in it often involves the same way that we form other sort of endurance sports. You need workout partners. You need spouses, parents to hold you accountable, friends that will help you get over that hump, avoid the temptations, and choose good. Temperance is that virtue that I always grew up thinking it kind of meant, being a weenie, to be temperate, to pull back, to hold back. And it is a virtue of moderation, but not moderation in the sense of reserve and I'm not fully committed. Moderation in the sense of I know to what I am fully committed. Temperance allows us to judge between things that are good, that are pleasurable, but to recognize which of them is a better good, a better pleasure. So it's really a virtue of balance in that sense of moderation. And in that way, temperance often involves a pause before we act. There's a brief sense of holding back in order to judge. Is this kind of instinctual, you punch me, I'm going to punch you? Is that proportionate force? Is that really the person I want to be? And it may be that there are difficult moments that call for severe reactions. It may be that we recognize we do have to pursue this good with reckless abandon. That would still be temperance, provided that the good we're pursuing with reckless abandon is God's good, is the long-term good, is the good of heaven. Now, we said in general the human virtues are things that we think we can do more or less on our own. At least they start with our effort. It often feels like we're doing all of it. And that's really what we're getting at, but not to the denial of grace. It's more that we think even in our fallen condition, even when we're broken, there's something about these human virtues that we can strive to do. It makes sense, as a virtue coach or as someone trying to help someone else grow, to say, try a little harder, stick with it. You must also pray. Grace can do two things, I think, really, especially with the human virtues. Grace could be a kind of a gift, a renewal, let's get started again. But it can also build upon some of that effort and keep pushing us farther. So we don't mean to talk about acquiring human virtues to the exclusion of God. And we don't really mean I do one step and God does the next step. We mean that these are the kinds of things that are rooted in natural human faculties, human abilities, day-to-day interactions. With effort, we can learn them, we can grow with them, and God will work with us, particularly by giving grace.